I'd like to welcome everyone to the May Livingston County Board meeting. And with that, we'll call it to order. If I could, we are honored to have Pastor Joe Ambrose for the invocation.
Let's bow our heads for prayer. Grace be to you and peace from God the Father and from our Lord Jesus Christ, who gave himself for our sins, that he might deliver us from this present evil world, according to the will of God, our Father, to whom be glory forever and ever. Holy Father, we gather together here tonight to be ministers of your business here in Livingston County. We pray you send your Holy Spirit to empower this board to do your will, according to Acts 17:28, which says, "For in you we live and we move and we have our being. In Christ Jesus our Lord." Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Ambrose. And with that, Joe Steichen will lead us all in a pledge of allegiance to the flag. Could we have roll call, please? Christy?
Sure. Vietti. Yes. Bunning.
Present.
Slagle.
Present.
Ingalls.
Present.
Steichen.
Here.
Schaefer.
Present.
Killian.
Present.
Kestner.
Here.
Ritter.
Here.
Gerwin.
Here.
Lovell.
Here.
Allen.
Here.
Arbogast. Weller.
Here.
Carly.
Present.
Holt.
Here.
Runyon. Mays.
Here.
Heath.
Here.
Weber.
Here.
Young.
Here.
Yoder.
Here.
Fannin.
Here.
Okay, thank you.
Where's our homesteader?
Now it's a
Buddy, he's on
kind of a pleasure. We have a board appointment to make to fill in for the vacancy created by Justin Gimbel. It's for District 3, and we have asked Linda Ambrose to please fulfill that, and she has agreed. So if Mrs. Ambrose would step up here into the front, and Christy, we need a motion, I guess.
I'll make
Mike
that
Ingalls,
motion.
Bob Weller. Any discussion? We need to roll call that then?
Vietti.
Yes.
Bunning.
Yes.
Slagle.
Yes.
Ingalls.
Yes.
Steichen.
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Killian.
Yes.
Kestner.
Yes.
Ritter.
Yes.
Gerwin.
Yes.
Lovell.
Yes.
Allen. Weller.
Yes.
Carly.
Yes.
Holt.
Yes.
Runyon. Mays.
Yes.
Heath.
Yes.
Weber. Young.
Yes.
Yoder.
Yes.
And Fannin.
Well, that wasn't as close as I thought it probably would be, so. With that, Christy, are you doing the honors?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you.
Raise your right hand, please, and repeat after me. I, Linda Ambrose,
I, Linda Ambrose,
having been appointed to fill an unexpired vacancy
an unexpired vacancy
in the office of District 3
in the office of District 3
County Board Member
County Board Member
on May 17, 2018,
on May 17, 2018,
in and for the County of Livingston
in and for the County of Livingston
and State of Illinois,
and State of Illinois,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of Illinois,
of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully
and I will faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of the office of
of
County Board member
County Board member
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
If you will wait just a minute, I would ask Mr. Slagle if you would get up and escort Mrs. Ambrose to her seat.
That was fun. Whoops.
That may be the most applause you ever receive here, Linda, at a board meeting. So enjoy that. Before we have the approval of the agenda, we are going to add an executive session. We have some pending litigation that I think board members need to be made aware of. So with that correction, I'd ask for a motion to approve the agenda. Ritter, Schaefer. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Approval of the minutes. You've had a chance to look them over. I hope everyone has. Holt and Weller. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Same sign. Okay, motion carried. Now, we have a resolution recognizing Pontiac Township High School Unified Basketball State Championship. And we are so happy to do this. And I have asked Mr. Carley if he would please do the honors of passing out and reading the resolution and passing out each individual copy.
Okay, congratulations, gentlemen and coaches. Resolution of the County Board of Livingston County, Illinois recognizes the Pontiac Township High School Unified Basketball Team, whereas the County Board of Livingston County, Illinois does hereby recognize and congratulate the Pontiac Indians for winning the 2018 Unified Basketball State Championship. And whereas team members include Preston Wilson, Montana McCulley, Austin Vanover, Adam Blair, Jacob Greif, Jacob Duffy, Jamie Martin, Gavin Bachnick, Nick Ellis, Carson Gregory, Trevor Heddens, and Keaton Caceres. And whereas the team was supported by team manager Ronnie Fairman and led by coaches Buck Casson, Pam Sawyer, and Laura Baumgardner. And whereas the PTHS Unified Basketball Team achieved a state championship on their first year of participation, outscoring their opponents by a score of 51-37. And whereas the Livingston County Board is pleased to recognize those entities who bring great honor to the County of Livingston. Now therefore be it resolved by the County Board of Livingston County, Illinois, in regular session, that it does hereby honor and congratulate the Pontiac Township High School Unified Basketball Team for their outstanding 2018 season and their state championship victory. Passed and approved this day, 17th day of May 2018.
Okay, congratulations. We're going to have to vote on that. Thank you. Do you, I see you've got your state championship trophy there, or plaque. You want to stand up and show that to everyone? And the crowd behind you? Okay, that's fine. Just stand up there and show it to us. Okay. Okay, well, thank you for bringing prestige and notoriety to Livingston County and your own school. We're happy for that, and we hope all of you boys and girls go on and have a great life ahead of you. So with that, we are going to need a motion to approve this resolution.
So moved.
Ingalls and Gerwin. Any discussion? Okay, do we need a roll call on that? We do.
Yes.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Beatty. Funny.
Most certainly, yes.
Flagel.
Yes.
Ingalls. Steichen.
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Killian.
Yes.
Kestner.
Yes.
Ritter.
With much pride, yes.
Gerwin. Yes. Lovell.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Weller. Ambrose.
Yes.
Carly.
Yes.
Holt.
Yes.
Mays.
Yes.
Heath.
Yes.
Weber. Young.
Yes.
Yoder.
Yes.
Fannin.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And our next presentation that I would like read is, you can take a picture. They're not here? Oh, well, we're going to have to go on, Paul. We're not going to kill that one. Well, it's on here. Mr. Ritter has informed me they're not here. But can we go ahead and... Thanks. Okay, with that, we have a couple of representatives from Farnsworth Group, and I'll turn this over to Mr. Ingalls.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Most of you realize that some months ago, the property committee began discussing, although it's been discussed for many years, what we would do to provide facilities for the H&E building out on Torrance Avenue. The building's old. It was designed as a TB sanitarium, and it's gone through several additions and one thing another. We engaged the Farnsworth Group and basically laid three options in front of them. One was to remodel the existing facility. The second was to build new. And the third was to look at existing buildings that might be appropriate for reuse. They did that, and without getting into a lot of details, all the existing buildings that were looked at, for one reason or another, they kind of fell off of the scorecard. Well, in some cases, they weren't for sale. In some cases, they were just totally inadequate in terms of the way they would arrange. One of the overriding concerns was both our health and mental health departments had expressed concern about privacy because of the clients they serve, and something on Main Street doesn't necessarily fit that bill. So with that said, it came down to doing a more in-depth study of building new or remodeling the existing facility. And for a lot of reasons, the Farnsworth Group came to the property committee with the recommendation that by far the best option was to build new. A lot of issues with the existing facility. It would have just taken an enormous amount of money to remodel it, to make it ADA compliant and so forth. And it still wouldn't have been functionally the right arrangement because of the nature of the beast. So with that, Dave Bernenson from Farnsworth came to the property committee meeting and made a presentation comparing those two options, the pros and cons. And we've asked Dave to come here and the property committee unanimously voted to go down the path of building new. We're far away from how we do it, what it looks like, how it's designed, and that sort of thing. But we've asked Dave to come here tonight and give a kind of a brief presentation on what he presented to the property committee so that we understand that direction. And assuming, hopefully, that the board approves that single question, pursuing building new as the best option, then we'll regroup and look at how we do that. What type of arrangement we make with architects, contractors, and so forth. So that's down the road. But tonight, I wanted Dave to give you a brief overview of how they came to the conclusion that the property committee recommended. So with that, Dave?
Appreciate the opportunity to make a presentation to you tonight. I have with me Jeff Gastel, who's one of our senior civil engineers in our Bloomington office, works with me. Just a couple of words about what the scope of the study involved, a few tasks, and I have kind of shrunk this down so it doesn't go on in case you're worried about that. But the scope was to study those three concepts that Mike just mentioned. So we did look at what would it be involved with using the current building and some of the possibilities of fitting the program into some other buildings, and then what would it look like if you did want to develop a new building. So the process involved confirming what the existing space usage actually is right now. It involved some interviews with the department heads, walking through and documenting the current building spaces, how big they were. We developed what we call a design program to organize that information, and then use that design program to develop a concept for a new building. That information also set a base where we can kind of test the existing building's ability to accommodate the design program. So when I say design program, it means not just the spaces, but the relationships and adjacencies, the things that make it a functional layout. So after review, we presented in the various sessions before, the idea was that the new building option was selected for the further study and presentation this evening. So the goal of this was to develop a new building on the existing site and take the advantage of incorporating the space program and all the adjacencies into this new opportunity. The idea was to try to provide maximum value for the investment by having efficiency and energy performance and safety and all those things that we could control with the new building. Part of the equation was the fact that there's the IHR function, which is kind of adjacent to and a little bit connected to the existing building. So we needed to look at a way to not disrupt the ability for that service to remain. I think they're a tenant right now to the county. So we wanted to have that integration. And then the other thought was to make sure we're mindful of future uses of the site. because we don't want to make any decisions that are short-sighted. So as we went through the space program, the planning considerations were building entrances. There was a need to have a central point of control, but then also have some ability to have a discrete entry for some of the programs that are a little bit more sensitive and use that. And that has an impact on the layout of the building, as you'll see in a minute. The little details like environmental health service needs, they have people coming from the fields, dirt on their shoes, the idea of making that close, just having some functionality like that built in. Confidentiality with visual privacy, sound control, HIPAA type issues. There's a variety of different people that use the services, different age groups. And in a perfect world, we'd maybe provide a little separation and not mingle those age groups in an uncomfortable way. And then the idea of that we could just really have the opportunity to make some functional improvements that has to do with accessibility, ADA, but also with just increasing safety and just being more functional on a day-to-day basis for operation. So all the departments that are involved with the health department services were involved, mental health services also. We touched a little bit on what some of the needs might be for the highway department. Kind of met with them just more in the idea of big picture site planning, but they're not specifically involved in the program for the new building. This is just a recap of what the program summary looks like. I've just tabulated here what the square footages are on the existing building and then on the proposed. DGSF means departmental gross square foot. That's the square footage of an area minus exterior walls and things, but it's rooms and walls and corridors inside those areas. So one of the things about the existing building is right now it's got a significant amount of space in the basement that's used for county maintenance, which is something to be mindful of in the big picture of things, but not necessarily something that belongs in the program of a new health department building. The other thing is what I mentioned with IHR, there's some space that's used by that function, about 4,500 square feet. And so when we're talking about comparing a new building size to the existing building size, we have to think through what does that mean. So when you look at the tabulation, the existing square footage in that building is about 18,537 usable space, not counting the maintenance space. Put a little footnote there because it kind of distorts the comparison to include that square footage. And then if you go through what the new building rooms all tabulate to and do the gross net to gross adjustment factors, it comes out to a building about 19,000 square feet. So when you look at the opportunities with the site design, some of the things we were interested in was trying to make sure that we sited the building in a way that the existing building could stay operational during the course of building a new building, because that avoids all the costs of relocating temporary facilities and having to move in unnecessary time. It was important to everybody, though, to try to retain an entrance that's oriented towards Torrance Avenue. So if you look at this drawing, I forgot to bring a pointer with me, but if you look at the drawing, we have site access from the north, and if the siting of the new building, of course, has to be south of the existing building, so it leaves a little area. As we would configure driveways and parking lot, we would support the adjacent IHR building, and we'd also provide an opportunity to replace the space that they currently need for their program that would be removed if we took down the existing health department building. We want to think about preserving options for future development, which the two little squares on the north side show some opportunities for other types of development, not really defined at this point. And also, there's plenty of space on the south part of the site where the transportation highway department could do. There's maybe some different things that might want to be considered there, but there's lots of space for it. So this drawing just blows up a little bit of detail closer to the building. And if you look at some of the parts I've shown, an entry loop that kind of supports the existing IHR building. You see the little sort of green part is the expansion. That building is a different construction type. It's kind of very residential, so the expansion needed to be similar in character and scale to work with that. The entry to the north, and then when I show you in a second the floor plan diagram, that shape of the building is a little unusual, but it works really well, kind of functional driven shape. So we can develop a main entry to the north, but we can also develop a little arrow on the lower part as a more discrete secondary entry. There are some issues of stormwater detention and management of site utilities, all that this works very well with. Stormwater and it drains to the north there. There's a nice deep manhole that we can tie into. There will be issues of water main size. This new building would be sprinklered, so there's maybe some impact on existing water mains to consider. So this slide is a diagram of this programming for the building. And the idea for the new building as opposed to the existing building is that we have functions that you get to from a building main corridor system, and you don't have to walk through one functional area to get to another one. We have a main entrance on the top part of the drawing, and it's you would walk into a lobby and there's a control point that is positioned. That's the little square that juts out. That's actually be a control desk. So you could see that entrance, and you could see down, you notice the angled hallway is sort of that discrete entrance for family planning. The issues of this then are that we have accommodated for confidentiality and flexibility, full ADA accessibility, increased safety. One of the thoughts we had for that gray area in the middle, it's called shared support spaces, is that we might have a big conference room that's actually built with structural walls, concrete block with precast concrete top. It could be a storm shelter for people in this part of town or this little campus of buildings to have for safety in a storm event. We have the ability to incorporate natural light in a reasonable way for a modern office building. We have, of course, energy efficiency would be a basic part, between energy codes and just good design. It's an opportunity to do all that right. So as we envisioned the quality expectations for materials and the kind of building that we think, of course, there's a lot of choices you could make in design that could steer costs up and down, but we've basically projected a construction cost about $225 a square foot multiplied by 19,000 square feet comes to a magnitude of about 4.3, a little bit, 4.275 million. Some other costs, though, the storm shelter upgrade that I mentioned adds to that. Site construction is, a fairly significant undertaking, but you do have the advantage of a nice, open, fairly simple site, though, to work with. So when you project all that together, we're seeing a general construction cost magnitude for the new at about 4.6 million. Other project costs, though, that's construction costs. The project costs include other things like design fees, and we projected that to be about $368,000. The civil engineering fees are different. That's for the building. And then there's other things like surveying and staking, parts of just involved with doing the building. So these are some costs that I think are pretty close, pretty reliable based on what we understand about what the building might be. There's other things too to be determined. There's what are we doing with technology and with furniture, and a lot of those things, those require some collaboration with the county, and a lot of decisions, are you using new or old, and a lot of that stuff. So before the end of the day, those things you'd have to account for those and make sure they're not left out of the picture. We did have kind of an idea of what building we had in mind for that kind of a cost. We're seeing it as a single-story building, trying to keep it simple, using pitched roofs, probably a metal roof for longevity, using quality and efficient systems. We've talked quite a bit about mechanical system selections being high-performing but simple to operate things. So I've kind of made sure our mechanical guys are on board with that sort of idea, and they've assured me that we can find systems like that, because sometimes the systems have a lot of opportunity, but if they're too complicated to operate for people using the building, then it's not really worth that much to you. So the overall guiding idea was that this would be a professional but not opulent type building. That's really kind of racing through a lot of that quickly. The last slide, though, here was put together to try to step back and talk a little bit about comparing the two options of, why would you do a new building, or if you compare what's the benefits of a new building versus trying to fix the old one. So I've just kind of gone through, and so if you just start with some issues on the left here and go through. So building site. So the first side is the first kind we use, the existing building. Well, pros with the existing site, building size was that the user is actually pretty comfortable with the existing building. The size is not really the problem. But the cons of the existing building size is that it doesn't meet all the program goals of adjacency and functional layout and those kinds of things. When you look at the pros was that we can accommodate all the desired program goals. The room sizes, the adjacencies, all those are things we can control. So building configuration then, under the concept of using existing building, is that the con is that there's a limited functionality. We really can't meet some of the goals given the nature of the building. It's a TB sanitarium that's being used for other purposes now, and you have to walk through one space to get to the other. It's probably one of the harder things to overcome, and then the issues of the different floors. So the pro of a new building would be accommodating the full desired program goals and complete accessibility, those kinds of things. On the site, I think it's fair to say that the existing site, everybody's pretty comfortable with the existing site. So that's not really a driver, but they would be comfortable with the new site as well. We would have opportunities with Jeff's expertise that we'd make sure that stormwater management, all those things that are really important to do right, would be able to be incorporated. The next thing on the list was the IHR proximity. And right now they have same building adjacency. And what we would have with the new building is a close building adjacency. It would be, I think, close enough from what I understand, it would be functionally appropriate and good, but it is 20 feet away instead of being the same building. One of the cons of that, though, is there's about 3,000 square feet of space. It's kind of an unresolved issue right now that would have to get built to accommodate their program. They're using more space than that in the existing building, but after analyzing it, a lot of that space is a configuration of the building as it is right now, and a lot of circulation space they wouldn't need, like stair. So when I've looked at it, it really comes back down to, instead of 45 or 5,000 square feet, it's really 3,000 square feet. When you look at some other issues like remaining operational during construction, I mean, that's a pretty significant point. If you try to use the existing building and fix it, then you really have to incur some significant rental expenses to be able to pick up the operations and move them to other spaces somewhere in town during construction. And a lot of discussion would have to be like, is it just parts at a time or is the whole thing? But that would be completely avoided with the new building scenario. Move-in costs are related to that. Trying to use the existing building, you have at least 2 moves to worry about paying for. With the new building, you only have 1. You just move into it when it's done. New construction, a pro of new construction is that things are controllable. It's design, we have to make decisions, but we can control that. Con for new construction is weather. You're kind of weather dependent on when you start construction. You know, the old thing, can you build for the winter or not? You don't really know from year to year. Renovation, the real big con is it's difficult to control. There's discovered conditions. I'm sure everybody's had enough experience with remodeling things that every time you turn around there'd be a surprise above the ceilings or some issue to deal with. Just tough to control. Storm safety, you might say maybe the basement is the place to go in that building, but it's not accessible right now in the existing building. For the new, like I mentioned, I think we could easily develop a safe room in the building for people to go to as part of the program. Fire code safety, there are some issues of code. The second floor is a little tenuous with the nature of the second exit. The stairs that are there are not really code compliant. But it's one of those things where the building codes allow that as an existing condition unless you're going to remodel things. So if you are going to remodel it, then we'd have to rework those and fix those things. We have an opportunity with the new building to be fully code compliant. Well, not just opportunity, but a requirement to be fully life safety compliant and modern designed. And costs. So after looking at cost, the option to fix the old building is very similar to the cost of new. It just has wild card of variables, these things you can't control that worry me. Subject to unknowns is pretty ripe for that. You'd have to have some pretty healthy contingencies to account for that. And with the new building, costs are identifiable and more controllable. Of course, how well that's done comes down to the team and doing a good job of projecting realistically costs, things like that. I'm sure you've had a variety of experiences on that over the years, but at least you're controlling everything, and it's something that, given people doing a good job, it's something that you can be much more dependable. So that's the quick spin through everything. If anybody wants me to elaborate on any part, I'm happy to.
Before questions or thoughts, as we went through this whole process, I guess there were a lot of reasons that I was impressed with the work Farnsworth did, but I think a couple of things that really solidified this direction for me, and it may seem a small thing, but we had a lot of discussion about this safe room, storm shelter, one thing and another. If you're not familiar, a few years ago with the Parsons story, and I was, because they were a subcontractor for the company I worked for. I mean, literally the entire building, with the exception of the restrooms, which were their safe rooms, every employee's vehicle were removed from the site with a tornado. And we have a campus out there that I think really needs that. 10 years ago, maybe, Johnson Controls did a quick study on just upgrading the mechanicals in the existing building. As I remember, that came in at somewhere around $2 million. That doesn't address the ADA issues, the accessibility issues. I think this county board has had enough experience, and so there's some lessons learned that we need a building that's not opulent, but that'll service improved functionality, will give us easy to maintain systems, and be totally ADA compliant, and the adjacency to IHR because of their interactions with mental health make this, for me, the obvious solution. With that, I don't know if the other board members have thoughts, comments, and then I'll be more than happy to make a motion that, not that we're going to build, and not we're going to build this building, but that's the direction we're going to investigate and move forward.
Just a real quick question. When we're looking at going the new route, and clearly there's a lot of factors that play into what happens, what are we looking at time-wise to do something in this nature to build new? And assuming that we would have to find new locations for existing, what kind of out of house time are we looking at?
Well, those might be two different things. I mean, building new, we wouldn't really have to dislocate the existing, because we can keep to the south. Yeah, I think you just, it's like any other thing, it's probably not a lot of fun for everybody, but I don't think you would have to move out of the existing building to build a new one. As far as, if you just think about us starting design, it depends a little bit on the process you want to go through and how methodical you want to be or how quick. Certainly 5 months would be long enough. It could be less. Usually when I think about a schedule though, I kind of look at it like, what other milestones do we need to worry about? Like, what's the urgency level of the whole thing? Do we want to make sure we got things done so we could start foundations like before winter gets here? So then I think about, well, then, so we want to do that, then you have to back up bidding time. So then probably we'd need to get design started pretty soon and think about a little bit after Labor Day as a time to get it done, so you have time to bid it, and it's not all big. But sometimes the process and approval process is more important than that, and maybe it starts the following spring after winter. And then you take more time, like the design process, you know, would involve schematics, design development, and construction documents. And in a perfect world, you do each one of those, and then you kind of call a timeout. Everybody looks at it, reviews, we make sure that everything's exactly what people want, and then we keep further develop it that way. Sort of like measuring twice and cutting once.
Just in order to keep the board meeting moving, is there, okay, we need to kind of end discussion, but I want everybody to get their questions. Mr. Yoder?
I have a comment and a question. My grandfather was there in the mid-'60s. Forgive me, but I think it's called a sanatorium for TB.
Oh, did I say it wrong? Sorry about that.
Okay, well, I've heard it several
Excuse me.
times. I'd like to know the project cost adjustments. Are those percentage costs of the total project? Are those percentage costs?
Are you
of
talking
these?
about the fees themselves or other parts?
All these down here. Are they percentage?
A little bit of both. Or things like the design basic services, I think it could probably be calculated as a percentage of construction cost. Other things like civil engineering, or if you get into surveying, that's a little bit more of a task-based, like you actually project man hours.
I understand what surveying is, but it just seemed awful high, surveying.
That includes
okay.
building staking as well. So those are.
To get back to, I guess
that
maybe
answers
Paul,
my question.
excuse me. There's been a lot of discussion on if we proceed, how we do that. And I don't even know the technical terms, but traditional design, general contractor, design build, using a construction manager. I mean, different ways to manage projects. Those are discussions yet to be had, and really weren't a part of this. This was really to determine whether we remodel or build. So that's kind of what's before us right now. And that'll more determine precise
Okay,
costs,
Joe?
that sort of thing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know, this question might be for some of the committee members, but from what this gentleman said, are there any other, how many buildings around the county have we looked at? Have we looked at any outside of Pontiac? Have we
No.
looked into White or Fairbury or Cullum or anywhere?
No.
Why not?
This is where most of the clientele, I think, is in the Pontiac area. a greater percentage. The workforce is accustomed to being here. Everything else as far as the services, the
Adjacency to IHR.
and to the hospital. You know, I just think some of those reasons, Joe.
Well, I mean, everybody in the
I know.
county's paying for this
I know,
service.
I know
And-
where you're coming from.
And from what this gentleman was saying, you know, we want maximum value for our investment, you know, which he's right. And there could be buildings around the county that we could utilize. And another thing he said was not to make decisions that are short-sighted. I mean, there's a lot of people that are funding these programs that maybe might not have access to it because they can't get to Pontiac. I mean, there's plenty of spaces out there for maintenance. One of the things he talked about, you know, there wouldn't be a cost of relocating to a temporary site if we found another site in the county that we could utilize. And that would leave this area that's on the corner of town here, the south side, for future development, another thing that he talked about. I mean, I think that needs to be looked at too before we decide to build. Look around the county and see what's available.
Joe, I, on more than one occasion, invited county board members or the general public to identify existing facilities that could be remodeled. We looked at each and every one of those. I don't know that there were any outside of Pontiac that were identified, but that invitation was there. But for me, the overriding consideration is, number one, we own the land, so we don't have to buy property. Secondly, it's that adjacency for mental health and IHR. And to, you know, spread them apart by miles, it doesn't make sense.
No, nobody's suggesting spreading them out by miles. I mean, look at the prison property in Dwight. There's room there for everybody. There's access, there's parking, there's several buildings. I mean, did anybody look at that? It's state property, it might not cost us a dime.
So you would move IHR in total and?
Well, IHR is not our responsibility.
Okay, we're getting out of, Joe, I understand what you're saying, and thank you for
I
bringing
mean,
that up.
I just like to see as much bang for our buck as we could get.
And that's, yeah, okay. I
You
agree.
heard, you know, a couple years ago, if we'd have spent $2 million with Johnson Controls, we'd be out $2 million, and we'd still be in the same boat with
Yeah.
the
Carolyn?
same building.
Is your speaker on?
So sorry. I have some questions on costs. There were no costs provided for option number one of staying in the building. So I'd sort of like to see what those costs were, and also would like to know the last 5 years of costs of maintenance of the existing building. Secondly, on the page that says program summary, they don't have page numbers on here, I don't think so. It says IHR, the existing space is 4,477 square feet, but in the new plan, none
In this building.
in this building. So they were
Correct.
they're going where?
IHR, we've had the discussions, obviously, some or all of that square footage has to be replaced. That reflects it's not in this building, but we're fully aware and we're willing to work with IHR on how we accomplish replacing that square footage. There again, we're kind of getting the cart before the horse. Tonight is the decision, do we
In the site
build new
plan,
versus remodel?
we showed where that square footage could go with the IHR expansion.
That would be future, and those costs are not reflected in this figure.
No, that's a different, because I think that's funded in a different way.
That's right.
Okay. Also, county maintenance space you counted as 0, but it is being used now, and I'm wondering, do we need to build any new space or find new space for maintenance storage then?
No.
We have space elsewhere that we're just not using?
Wait, when you say maintenance, that old building, there's a room they use kind of as a shop. We don't see that need going forward. Most of the maintenance is provided by people with their tools in the truck, especially a new building like this. So a shop as such, no, it doesn't belong in a health department building anyway.
A painter of buildings around town.
So what's down there? I mean, where's it gonna go?
Where's what gonna go? The tools?
Whatever is down there right now.
I mean, my thought would be you'd put it in a building that's much less expensive,
Yeah.
you know, just because it's
I mean,
really just
Carolyn, we've
utilitarian.
talked about, the highway departments needing building additions. That would seem to be a logical place to have a centralized shop, if we even need that.
So that would be another building project?
That's for the highway committee.
Okay. And then under concept 2, new building with the construction costs, the last bullet point you touched on, technology/FFE/legal/insurance to be determined. And then when you were talking, you also mentioned furniture, so I put /furniture.
Yeah, that's FF&E,
So what's FFE again?
furniture, fixtures, and equipment.
Okay. And you don't have an estimate for that?
No. Now, but that's an exhaustive, I guess, collaborative effort to decide if you were going to use the furniture you already have or not.
Right.
So there's a lot of decisions that go into determining that.
Is there a ballpark idea?
I
If we
haven't
got
developed
new?
one.
Okay.
I mean, it could be, if you're looking at the option with the existing building, you could just take the old furniture out and put it back. Or you could put it in the new building.
You mentioned with remodeling that there's some unknowns, but our past experience suggests there's some unknowns with new construction as well. And we've had
True.
some significant legal fees and problems in that regard. Okay, and my last comment is when you say not opulent, I guess I would just ask whoever, if this does go forward at some point, and for building projects in general, I think there is a value to a building looking good.
Yes.
And I think it's a value to the whole community, not just the people who walk into it. So I'm really not a fan of the gray 3D architect rendering here.
Well, you understand it's not meant to be representational.
I'm just letting you know, so, yeah.
Okay.
And that's, other than, the cost seems kind of high to me, based on other comparison points, but those are details that can be discussed by others, I guess. Thank you.
A lot of decisions you'd make would steer the cost up or down.
Okay, are there any other questions? Darrell Holt.
Oh, just a statement. It looks like on this design, it's kind of a modular affair, which would be fairly easy to expand on any one of those modules. Is that correct?
Yes, if we wanted to optimize that, maybe we'd switch the roof forms to be gable ends, or we thought, instead of the hips that I've shown so far, because that makes it super easy to expand. Yeah, the idea is open-ended.
Okay, could I have a motion?
225 a square foot, is that your going rate that they're,
That
you're
would be,
thinking, or?
if you want to think about, if you were doing a reasonably nice medical office building, that would be adequate for that kind of function. So it could be, like I say, there's a lot of decisions. You could steer that down if you want to, but we haven't had those kinds of detailed discussions, so I don't want to plan too
The next steps,
optimistically.
or if we go there. The other question was, this design is this. I mean, I've always thought to myself that this should just be office space. I mean, that's all it should be. I've driven by the Sullivan Complex. I'm sure you're familiar with that out by Walmart. It's just,
I'm not,
I
don't
think
know
it's
by
called
name.
that. Okay, it's just office space. Doctor's offices are not out there. That's over 32,000 square feet there. I mean, that's, a building like this compared to like that. I mean, is this something we think about later, or is that an option that, I don't know how to.
I'm not sure the question, what to use that
Well, this
building,
big
or-
building here, compared to smaller buildings that basically satisfy, I think, everybody, keeping everybody separate and all that. Now, if you ever been out there, or,
I haven't seen that building.
oh, it's
But-
right next to Walmart.
So if the program that was resultant from the design process, there is some advantage for the collaboration and adjacency in the same building. So he wasn't trying not to lose that, was my understanding.
Okay.
Mr.
Just
Chairman?
one more. I'm sorry, demolition? I mean, what does that add? Because this, I don't see that really on here.
Yeah, I don't have that figure,
Okay.
but it's kind of common to both schemes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
so that we can get to step 2 and take into consideration the concerns and the questions and everything that are here, whether it be the color of the building or the type of roof or what's opulent and what's, all of those things, we need to ratify the direction that the committee recommendation was to build new versus remodel, and I would make that motion.
Is there a second to that?
What was the motion?
Weller. Repeat the motion, Mr. Ingalls.
The county board will move forward with consideration with the aim to be build new to replace the existing H&E building.
Can we have a motion and a second? I think we've had the discussion. Mr. Slagle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm not opposed to a new building. I was hoping this study would convince me so that when I talk to people in the community, I could explain why we need a new building. This study to me didn't convince me that new building was the best option. This study seemed to me to basically say, here's what we think the best building would be for this purpose. And then so they said the current building will not meet that. An existing building will not meet that, but our building we have planned will meet that. So everything led to that answer. And I do think it's a good design. I don't have any issues with it, but the study didn't convince me of that. And with our history of how building projects here have went, and I'm already feeling a little railroaded today and talked down. I hear people being talked down.
Thank you.
I think the process that we went through so far was a few people handling it and with very little input from others. And so for that reason, I'm voting no for this.
Okay, I will say that, it has gone through committee. It's been discussed several times. If it's, it sounds like this is something that's near and dear to a lot of you. If we need to have another meeting to get all your questions out, I think we'll go ahead and take the vote. But if you need to have all these questions, I'm happy to let it, maybe we could do it on a Saturday morning or some evening. We will. We're not trying to I don't think anybody's trying to railroad anything, and nobody's trying to necessarily just make sure it stays in Pontiac. I know the committee that was working on it did a lot of work to try to identify structures and work through that H&E building that it stands now to see what they came up with. I think probably everybody will come to the same decision if you see everything.
Mr. Chairman?
So I'm fine to take that time.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Yoder.
I guess the only comment I have is it appears that, there's some sense of urgency and we want to rush this vote and everything. And we want to spend, what, $4.5 million, $4, $5, $6 million, who knows? It seems like we could afford more than a half hour of discussion over it.
I think that's what I said.
Yep.
That we,
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman, I'd like to table this.
Yeah, I second that. That's what I was going to make.
we
I
have
was going to make a motion.
A motion has been made and is on the floor,
Chairman?
and I think we have to dispose of that motion first.
Mr. Chairman, point of order, I believe that's incorrect. I believe a motion to table is always in order and takes precedent.
That's true.
Okay?
I guess I would only, who made the motion? Was it Ritter?
Yeah.
What, okay, table and then what? I mean,
Probably follow Bob. Mr. Ingles, I believe the then what is discussion, because it's clear that we have a number of people who are not at the point where they feel comfortable with moving forward. And so it's not that I feel uncomfortable, but I think there's a lot of questions that they have moving forward. So I think the then what is discussion of all these other things, such as a number of questions that have been raised. That's a then what.
But again, I get back to, the intent here tonight was not to design a building or.
Sorry, I didn't use my microphone.
Is the question then remodel versus build? Because that's what my motion was, to build rather than remodel.
Mr. Chairman, if I might.
Mr. Fannin.
I was part of the group that was working on this, and I believe that we need a new building, but there are a number of questions that the public has asked board members, and board members can't answer them. And I believe that's the concern with a number of board members. And they would just like the opportunity to get further information that they can then answer the questions that are being asked by their constituents.
So too, Marty.
I don't disagree, but I'm trying to understand what the questions are.
Okay. Do we have another motion?
I'll withdraw my motion.
Do we have another motion then?
You got a motion and a second, Mr. Chairman.
I thought he withdrew.
I withdrew on mine.
Yep, and I withdrew.
Paul's got a second right here.
So then it's,
Well, I didn't recognize the second, Bob. I didn't know anybody had made a second yet. Okay. So, Paul, you made that motion, what, to table it? And
I'll
Mr.
second.
Killian, you have seconded that motion.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay, so everybody understands the motion on the table? Huh?
Previous motion was,
To table with no discussion. We'll have no motion on this.
the motion was withdrawn.
Okay, so we don't need to vote. Is that right? Okay, so we need that motion.
We need the vote.
Okay, and so we need a roll call vote on that, is that right? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Carolyn, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to add that this will also give us an opportunity to hear from the public. For a building project of this magnitude, I believe the public should be more involved and have an opportunity to express their concerns and their preferences. Thank you.
And to that end, I would suggest that the chairman arrange for a special meeting.
that's the end of the building.
Where
The building is a freaking.
the public, board members can ask questions, so that we don't, drag this on forever.
Oh, Dave, we're gonna do it again.
No problem.
So we will get back with you. And I hope you'll be good enough, both of you, to come back, and
That's right, it's third time.
we'll see if we can get a time that we can invite the public and all the board members, and we can go at it as long as we need to.
However we can help.
You'll never build anything.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, let's try to move along.
Hold immediately, you'll never building them right out the door. That building will never be built. It'll never be built.
Let's go ahead and do the consent agenda. We have the approval of the bills and the appointments that you can see. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Bannon, Station. Roll call vote, please.
Fieri,
Yes.
Bunning,
Abstain.
Slagle,
Yes.
Ingalls. Yes. Steichen,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Killian,
Yes.
Kestner,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Gerwin,
Abstain.
Lovell,
Yes.
Allen. Weller. Yes. Ambrose,
Yes.
Carly,
Yes.
Holt,
Yes.
Mays,
Yes.
Heath,
Yes.
Weber, Young,
Yes.
Yoder,
Yes.
Fannin.
Yes.
Okay, I understand now that the garage squad, who we were gonna give we jumped over, we were gonna give a proclamation for, is here. So with that, I'll call on Mr. Ritter.
Who? Who was the garage squad? What the hell is that?
Mr. Chairman and County Board, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Ronnie Gregorich. He is one of the members of the Garage Squad. It's exciting to be able to read this proclamation. What makes this even more exciting, that is a little known fact, is that Ronnie is also a business owner as well as someone who resides in Livingston County, and as a member of our communities, has worked very hard to not only bring the members of the Garage Squad to working with our schools and students, but also making an impact within our communities. And so it gives me great pleasure to read this proclamation, resolution number 2018-5-15, the proclamation of the County Board of Livingston County, Illinois, recognizing the Garage Squad. Whereas the Garage Squad is on a mission to rescue killer cars, trucks, and bringing them back from the great beyond. And whereas the squad selects real people with real project cars and brings their expert assistance, know-how, and plenty of parts to the home garage. And whereas the Garage Squad rescues weekend mechanics who perhaps lack the time, resources, or simple know-how to get their project autos roadworthy. Again, by the way, that was my section right there because I lacked all of those. Whereas there's more than meets the eye. Under the hood of every Garage Squad rescue, you'll find the heartbeat of a real story. And whereas the Garage Squad operates under the direction of the executive producers Matt Burnett, Bill Connell, Ted Liga, Peter Neal, story producers Craig Monologue, Mia Wickland, and production manager Corey Doyle. And whereas the National Hot Rod Association World Champion driver Bruno Massel, co-host Heather Storm, lead builder Joe Zolper, mechanics Ron Wreck-It Ronnie Gregorich, Cy Kellogg, and Jeff King bring their expertise, parts, and tools as they crash the garages of citizens who are in over their heads under the hood. And whereas the stories captured by the cinematographers Fred Miller, Jim Looning, whereas after working alongside the owners to ensure the perfect vehicular vision, the squad returns the complete cars for an emotional reuniting of man and machine. Whereas based in the Midwest, the Garage Squad has become part of the Livingston County community and continued their mission to service Livingston County by mentoring Livingston County high school students in partnership with Pontiac Township High School and the Livingston Area Career Center. Whereas the Livingston County is proud to recognize the Garage Squad for an outstanding contribution to the citizens of Livingston County and the state of Illinois. Now therefore be resolved by the County Board of Livingston County in Illinois in regular session that it does hereby recognize and proclaim the following: that the Garage Squad is hereby and officially commended for their outstanding service to citizens of Livingston County and the state of Illinois. That this proclamation be presented to the Garage Squad, Ronnie Gregorich of Blackstone Motor Works, to serve as a reminder that throughout their perseverance and work ethic, they have made valuable contributions to our community. That May 19th shall be named Garage Squad Day in the Livingston County. That this copy of this proclamation be read aloud and made a part of the official record of Livingston County, passed and adopted on this 17th day of May 2018, signed Robert Young. Thank you very much. It's a privilege to present this proclamation to Ronnie. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we need a motion and a roll call vote for this resolution. Ritter made the motion. I need a second.
Who did that?
Steve. Ritter and
Lovell.
Okay,
Mr. Lovell
ready.
made the motion and second.
Got
Any
it.
discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Beatty? Yes. Bunning?
Yes.
Slagle?
Yes.
Ingalls? Steichen?
Yes.
Schaefer?
I wasn't at the meeting where this was discussed. I'll abstain.
Killian?
Yes.
Kestner? Ritter?
Yes.
Gerwin?
Yes.
Lovell?
Yes.
Allen? Weller? Yes. Ambrose?
Yes.
Carly? Yes. Holt?
Yes.
Mays?
Yes.
Heath?
Yes.
Weber? Young?
Yes.
Yoder?
Aye.
Bannon?
Yes.
Okay, thank you and congratulations. Now, we're getting at 7:15, we're getting to the action agenda. And with that, we'll let Mr. Bunning, Chairman of Highway Committee, have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As our engineer Clay Metcalf comes to the podium, we have two resolutions to bring to the full board tonight. We voted on them separately at committee. I ask that we do that as well tonight. We've got a setting fees and preliminary and construction engineering for services. I yield the floor to Clay.
Good evening. So the first resolution is to change a few things in our preliminary engineering services for the County Highway Department. The table that's before you with the various types of preliminary and construction engineering, the only ones that are changing are the reconstruction sections, the aluminum RC box culverts and RC headwall CMPs, and then routine bridge inspections. We have not been able to charge for those services before. We felt that was something that we should be doing to the townships, and so that's what we would like to add. We'd also like to bring on the routine bridge inspections to the Highway Department and do that in-house versus hiring a consultant. So it gives us the option to still hire a consultant if it's beyond our scope or ability to still have time to do that in-house, but if we do it, then we're going to be able to charge for that preliminary engineering where we have not before. So that's the first resolution. I don't know if there's any questions. This
You want
resolution.
to vote on those separate, do you not?
Yep. I will make a motion.
Okay, Bunning and Yoder. Any discussion?
Questions for Clay or myself?
We'll roll call it, please, Christie.
Beatty? Bunning?
Yes.
Slagle?
Yes.
Ingalls?
Yes.
Steichen?
Yes.
Schaefer?
Yes.
Killian?
Yes.
Kestner?
Yes.
Ritter? Okay. Gerwin?
Yes.
Lovell?
Yes.
Allen?
Yes.
Weller? Okay. Ambrose?
Yes.
Carly? Yes. Holt?
Yes.
Mays?
Yes.
Heath?
Yes.
Weber? Young?
Yes.
Yoder?
Yes.
Bannon?
Yes.
Okay, moving on to resolution and intergovernmental agreement, the Illinois Public Works Mutual Aid Network. Clay?
Okay, so this is a two-part thing. The first one is a resolution to allow the chairman to sign into the mutual aid agreement. What this is the Illinois Public Works Mutual Aid Network. IPWMAN is the acronym for that. What is IPWMAN? It's the this network provides formalized system for government agencies to enter into a written mutual aid agreement to provide and receive emergency assistance in the event of a natural or man-made disaster or other situations that require action or attention beyond the normal capabilities of an agency. This organization embodies the concept of community helping community by providing an organized process for response to an emergency. An agency requesting assistance receives the type of equipment, materials, and personnel services that are needed to react to the event. So it's based on a population as far as the amount that is paid annually, and for our population, the fees are $250 per year. So the really low cost, and you're able to pool resources from county to county, county to municipality, townships. I think there's over 200 organizations in this. I was looking to a question prior to the meeting. Several counties around us within the District 7 of Ippoman are in it, with the exception of maybe LaSalle and Kendall. Everybody touching us is in this organization. There's no requirement to stay in it. If you want to get out of it, you just have to give them notice, and in 30 days you can be out of it. You don't have to respond to an emergency if you have too much going on and you have no personnel available to send or equipment. But you have the ability to tap into all the other resources if others are willing to share them. So we think it's a good option for the county to join this, and hoping that maybe other communities will join it in Livingston County.
Having said that, I will make the motion.
Carly, second. Any discussion? Mrs. Gerwin?
Just a few questions. So this will be a new thing for us. We have not been in this before.
That's correct.
Why weren't we in it before? Because it's been around since 2008, so I'm just wondering, is there any downside that they considered before or just didn't consider it before?
Well, I had just heard about it about a year ago. It was the first presentation that I had presented, and so I've been discussing it internally, making sure we had buy-in from everybody involved, and also talking to some other counties and municipalities that are in it, and haven't heard anything that was a negative, so I presented it to the committee.
You say you talked to people. Did you talk to the employees who might be called to go out to these events?
Correct.
Great. Also, generally, I love mutual aid because it helps us be more efficient and more effective. I also see that the bylaws were not attached, but I understand the dues are $250 a year, right. So that's a pretty good deal. And we do have some additional risk, it looks like, because we're still responsible for our employees if they do go to a higher risk situation. And the other question I had was, so there's going to be a representative from Livingston County, right?
Correct.
Will that be you?
We would be contacted initially, and then once they're there on site, they would be reporting to the commander of the Ippoman organization at the site.
But I mean, on this board of directors that meets once a year, who's going to do that?
That's going to be me, I guess, as far as answering to them.
Okay, thank you.
We do.
Okay, no other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Vietti. Bunning.
Yes.
Slagle.
Yes.
Ingalls.
Yes.
Dyson.
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Killian.
Yes.
Kestner.
Yes.
Ritter. Gerwin.
Yes.
Lovell.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Weller.
Yes.
Ambrose.
Yes.
Carly.
Yes.
Holt.
Yes.
Mays.
Yes.
Mays. Okay. Heath.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
Yoder. Yes. Fannin.
Yes.
Thank you, Clay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Bunning. Have you got your mic on, Dave?
I do now. I was curious about the completion date of the Dwight Bridge project.
Okay, so the Dwight Bridge project is located on 3100 North, just southwest of Dwight. It was a 14-ton posting that was on that bridge that we needed to replace. We took it out, I believe, maybe 3 weeks ago is when it started. We're moving along rather quickly. We've gotten all the piling driven on each of the 4 lines except for the east abutment. We have a gas main conflict there that we're working through. But the contractor, Reber Construction, is moving along quite well for starting it so quickly. So we're in the process. As far as the timing of it, it's all weather-based. It's on this conflict that we have with the utilities. We have a completion date of September 15th. But there also is a working day requirement. Working days are charged based on whether it's a workable day with weather and such. And so those working days would run out before September 15th, providing the weather cooperates, so since they started so early. So I can't give you exact time frame on it, but hopefully in the next 3 months we'll get it back open.
Well, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Sturgeon.
I had one question, Clay. On that inspection of the bridges, is there any type of liability for us when those inspections, say if we happen to get one wrong and there's an accident or an issue, is there any type of extra liability we're going to incur from that?
Liability from the actual inspection or liability
Right,
from...
if we inspect it and say it's fine, say that bridge in Broughton Township was inspected and it was fine, and then you know how bad that washed out, somebody comes down that road and gets injured in an accident or something, because of our inspection, would we incur any type of liability from that?
I don't think that's a question you can answer.
We are responsible for, even on the township level at this time already, as I am the program manager for this Livingston County for those township bridges. When we hire a consulting firm, they do the inspections, so their name is also on the report. But I have to oversee the report and agree with their inspection and send it in now. Okay. So there's some responsibility already.
Already, okay, all right.
Regardless of it's us or the contractor doing it, you ultimately have to sign off on it.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Clay.
Yep, problem. Thank you.
Okay, going to Ag and Zoning Committee, Mr. Holt, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Holt.
First thing on the agenda, a couple action items. The Reedville subdivision and the Tredenick subdivision, I'd ask Chuck on his way up to assist me in this, but what these are part of settling up 2 estates. They're basically to remain in the family, and what they've done is kind of resectioned off lots within that subdivision just to settle estates in both cases. So I thought that we could probably vote on both of them at the same time. You have anything to add, Chuck?
Take questions. I mean, the first one, the Reedville situation, you had a copy of the reports were part of your packets. Again, that's a family trust. There's 3 houses on the property. 2 of the homes are already on separate parcels. There is a 3rd member of the family that wants the 3rd house that's in the middle of the parcel. So they want to divide off the middle lot to go with that 3rd house. That leaves a lot on each end. That'll be separate, so it creates 5 lots. The 2 smaller lots that are existing will be expanded to allow for the people that have those properties to have some larger lots in regards to them. The second one with the Tredenick Bittner property, it's a family situation where the accountant is asking the property be subdivided. So it's kind of the property's not going to transfer to anybody. It's just an accounting issue that the accountant wants the property subdivided in regards to moving forward for accounting purposes. That's my simple explanation. Any questions? Yes. Bittner.
Okay. It's just misspelled there.
I understand. That's fine.
Thank you.
If there are no further questions, I make a motion that we accept the Ag Committee's recommendation and approve these two subdivisions?
I've got down they have to be separated or voted on separately, Darrell. So
Okay.
can we go ahead and
Sure.
do that, please?
Okay, we'll do the Reedville subdivision first.
I'll second that.
Who was the second? Any discussion? Roll call vote, please. Christie?
Vietti. Bunning.
Yes.
Slagle.
Yes.
Ingalls.
Yes.
Steichen.
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Killian.
Yes.
Kestner.
Yes.
Ritter.
Yes.
Gerwin.
Yes.
Lovell.
Yes.
Allen. Weller. Ambrose.
Yes.
Carly. Holt.
Yes.
Mays.
Yes.
Heath.
Yes.
Weber. Young.
Yes.
Yoder.
Yes.
Fannin.
Yes.
Okay.
And the second one is the Trednick Bittner subdivision. It also is an estate where they're splitting up lots, resizing them to satisfy the estate.
Okay.
Is that a motion?
Motion by Holt, second by Bunning. Any discussion?
Yes.
Okay, roll call vote, please, Christie.
Vietti. Bunning.
Yes.
Slagle.
Yes.
Ingalls.
Yes.
Steichen.
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Killian.
Yes.
Kestner.
Yes.
Ritter.
Yes.
Gerwin.
Yes.
Lovell.
Yes.
Allen. Weller. Ambrose.
Yes.
Carly.
Yes.
Holt.
Yes.
Mays.
Yes.
Heath.
Yes.
Weber. Young.
Yes.
Yoder.
Yes.
Fannin.
Yes.
The third item is the Stone Lake subdivision, which, this is phase two. Phase one has been approved by the county board. And phase two is basically taking the north section of it, which was one common area, B on the drawing, and subdividing it into 3 lots and a parcel A, which extends the full length. I'm sure Chuck's got better information than I'm able to give you on what they're doing there.
I mean, you explained it fairly well. Basically, there was 2 outlets created when this was divided years ago. Outlet A was supposed to be for an access lane area going back to outlet B. Outlet B was the area that was left over that wasn't be subdivided on the north end. There's a possibility it all could be bought by one person, or they've changed their minds where they want to take outlet B and divide it into 3 separate lots. There's a new interest in somebody purchasing outlet, which will be lot C of outlet B, which is the eastern lot that's on the property. They will also be buying the outlet A, which would be the access going to the property. So the outlet easement going all the way through would be shortened because it's getting on their property in order to do that. When they designed the subdivision, they had a homeowners agreement association to go with it, so they have control of the roads to go with it. There was a variance that was approved by the zoning board of appeals to allow for the easement access of that agreement to work, to go forward with that. And that's my basics. Any questions, I'll have to answer any specific questions.
They assured us that there is no outlet on 24. The outlet would be on the township road that runs alongside of it.
Correct.
I'd make a motion that we approve and accept the Ag Committee's recommendation.
Okay, motion by Holt,
Second.
second by Lovell. Any discussion? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Vietti. Bunning.
Yes.
Slagle.
Yes.
Ingalls. Steichen.
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Killian.
Yes.
Kestner.
Yes.
Ritter.
Yes.
Gerwin.
Pass.
Lovell.
Yes.
Allen. Weller. Ambrose.
Yes.
Carly. Holt.
Yes.
Mays.
Yes.
Heath.
Yes.
Weber. Young.
Yes.
Yoder.
Yes.
Fannin.
Yes.
Gerwin.
Yes.
One thing I failed to mention is that it was mentioned at the Ag Committee meeting that there beings that, I think it's Indian Grove, has a planning commission of their own, that maybe we should get something from them. John Slagle was good enough to take care of that for us. So we have a letter in our files that okays from the Planning Commission, and I think it's Indian Grove, to proceed with voting on this. So, thank you, John. On the next item, solar energy special use, we reviewed two different proposals. A couple of us went over to the two sites to look at them. They're basically, one's over by Thresherman's Park, which is over, well, it's close to the illegal transfer station that's over there by Thresherman's Park. Just to throw that sideline in.
Editorial.
Yeah. The other one is over by Manville, and so we were able to check those out and see what the layout looked like as far as proximity to homes and population area, that kind of thing.
Do the people at the illegal transfer station have any objection to this?
Oh, we didn't stop and ask them. We did not. Okay. The item E, solid waste, we're proceeding with the working on the extension of the present agreement with Republic. They're also had positive things to say about the wells that were repaired there, put in the new wells, and things seem to be moving along pretty well there. I don't know if it's the one item that is on the south side of Street or Landfill. Is that something we could talk about?
Darrell, it's not on the agenda. I mean,
It's not.
it's not on the agenda.
It may have gone away anyway, so.
Okay, thank you. The campus letter, we received a letter from the village president.
You're going off the ag and zoning agenda, aren't you?
Yes,
Not the county board agenda.
okay. Well, I got, report is needed.
Okay.
You keep going.
Okay.
I mean, if you don't want to hear about it.
No,
I won't.
fine. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We received a letter from the campus village president and the trustee, and well, the trustee was to our meeting, and there was also some campus residents there. They were interested in what was happening with the porta potties that were parked in front of this business was being run out of a residence. And we were able to assure them that a letter had been sent by our state's attorney to the owners of that property, giving them a time limit to take action. And so far, we've not, it was a registered letter, so far we've not received any confirmation that they've received it. So the steps will be taken to get them a copy of this letter. So we will see some action there to clean that up. The other item that I was given today was in the disaster news, the Small Business Administration, Livingston County has been included in that group of counties where they are, if we have storms or flooding, have a disaster, that businesses are able to get up to $2 million to borrow that much money to repair or replace damaged property. The homeowners are able to get up to $200,000 and loans up to $40,000 to repair or replace. So we have been included in that group of counties.
And that's for the flooding that occurred between February 14th and March 4th. There was a time period on that. So if anybody needs to be contacted, get a hold of me. I'll give you phone numbers, websites, whatever.
You'd be the person, okay, good,
All right.
that's good.
The next ZBA meeting is on the 31st?
Yes, they're going to be, yes, it's off the regular schedule. They're going to be continuing the hearing on the first two solar farm applications that were filed. So it'll be on the 30th or 31st.
Thank you.
7 o'clock. Yep.
Mr. Chairman, that's the extent of my report.
Okay, thank you. Going right on to Finance Committee, Mr. Schaefer, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Barb, just keep on walking. Got a professional service agreement addendum raising a fee from the tax trustee, Joseph Meyer and Associates.
You have two documents that I'm requesting your approval. One is to an addendum to the original agreement that we have with Joseph Myers to act as the county trustee to collect delinquent taxes and then offer them for sale. And the second is a resolution to approve increasing the minimum bid from $600 to $750. Every year we have a sealed bid auction. The one this year will be September 14th. We just got the notice today, but we want to raise the bid from $600 to $750. We don't think it's going to affect the interest that people have in the delinquent.
And that raise comes back to us.
Pardon me?
And that increase comes back to us.
No, we split it with the trustee.
Okay, split, okay.
Yeah, he gets $100, we get $50.
Okay.
So. Hey, he does a lot of work, saves us a lot of headache, I'm telling you. So I'm asking your approval for that.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Chairman, I'd motion we approve that addendum.
Second by Ingalls. Discussion? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Beatty? Yes. Bunning?
Yes.
Slagle?
Yes.
Ingalls? Yes. Steichen?
Yes.
Schaefer?
Yeah.
Killian?
Yes.
Kestner?
Yes.
Ritter?
Yes.
Gerwin?
Yes.
Lovell?
Yes.
Allen? Weller? Ambrose?
Yes.
Carly? Holt?
Yes.
Mays?
Yes.
Heath?
Yes.
Weber? Young?
Yes.
Yoder?
Yes.
Fannin?
Yes.
Okay. Second item, Mr. Chairman, we set aside in the budget each year monies for grant applicants and determined recipients for improvements to their local business, Livingston County businesses. And Adam Donce is here with GLC EDC to talk about a grant applicant for $50,000. And again, the money's already been set aside. It's a question of whether we say, okay, let's take care of the grant or deny it.
Where's that auction going to be?
I think it's street. I think it's street.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I'll be brief without sacrificing any details or terms of the agreement before you this evening. By way of background, this has been to the GLC EDC and was approved there. We were before the Finance Committee where we received no votes at the Finance Committee, and now we're on to the full board. The agreement here this evening is in keeping with the standard terms, policies, and procedures that our EDC has reviewed and approved and have been consistent with the other grant applications that have come before the county board for funding. In short, it's $5,000 per job. The wage requirement is $29,201 per year, a minimum threshold that the applicants have to meet. To the extent they don't meet their hiring requirement in the agreement, we have a letter of credit that secures the obligation. So if there's any deficiency, there's no need for litigation. We can draw upon that letter of credit. What I will say is over the last couple of years, Anthony Lifgates has made an investment in their operation here of approximately $1 million. They've added approximately 23,500 square feet to the building. In 2016, they were at approximately 60 employees, and this agreement here targets employment to be 81 upon completion within the year. So this is budgeted. It's been before finance and approved there. I would entertain any questions from any of the board members. Yes, sir.
Any other applicants? Was there any other people that applied for the grant?
We have funded Technical Metals through this in the past. We've funded Slagle Meats through this in the past. in a number of others.
No, I mean,
This isn't the only 50,000 we have, John. There's a lot more than that.
but right now,
There's,
I mean,
no, I don't have any other pending applications in my hopper right now or before you this evening.
I guess I don't understand. How many grants do we give a year?
That's a demand-based thing.
They're on a as-merited basis as requests come in. We don't.
Oh, okay,
We
okay,
take
thank
them
you,
case by
thank you.
case.
Okay,
if
I understand now.
Okay, thank you.
Well, that's it. I would motion, Mr. Chairman, that we go along with that and approve that.
Okay, we have a motion. Bunning a second. Any discussion? All. Okay, we'll roll call vote it, please.
Vieti.
Yes.
Bunning.
Yes.
Slagle.
Yes.
Ingalls.
Yes.
Steichen.
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Killian.
Yes.
Kestner.
Yes.
Ritter.
Yes.
Gerwin.
No.
Lovell.
Yes.
Allen. Weller. Ambrose.
Yes.
Carly.
Yes.
Holt.
Yes.
Mays.
Yes.
Heath.
Yes.
Weber. Young.
Yes.
Yoder.
Yes.
Fannin.
Yes.
I would also like to note and recognize the generous and sustained support of the Livingston County Board, and so as part of our public relations campaign for the balance of the year, we'll be coming to each of the meetings and bringing a representative from our Board of Directors. Tonight in the audience is Brad Solberg, who's the president of OSF St. James, John W. Albrecht here in town, and he also serves as vice chairman of the EDC. So we just want to let you know we appreciate your continued support.
Thank you, Adam and Brad.
Well,
Oh, and Adam, did you say that they've added about 23,000 square feet
23,500.
at about $1 million?
Approximately
Approximately?
$1 million.
That's
in the
about
last
$44
few years.
a square foot. So how come our new health building costs $225 a square foot?
He can't answer that.
Yeah.
I'm not qualified to
Adam? Adam?
Nice out.
I assume with the grant tonight, did you say going from 60 to 81?
When we started working with them, they were at 60. They added about 12 jobs, and they're at 72 or 71 now. And now with this, the aim is up to 81.
And I assume we're talking welders, fabricators, machinists, this sort of thing?
Yes, sir.
Very good.
Yep.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thanks, both of you, very much. And lastly, since we now on a schedule of replacing our police units, those cars periodically, as they get cycled out, we don't really have much else to do them. We decided to auction them. And we've got a resolution, it says surplus property, but I think it's by and large used automobiles. They're going to an auction in Streeter, aren't they, Alina?
Actually, it is an auction company out of Streeter, but we've arranged for them to be sold at an auction here in town in Pontiac on June 9th. But I do want to draw your attention, there was one vehicle on there that is in need of extensive repairs, and based on the value of the vehicle, the scrap value is less than what we would net on that whole deal. So as part of the amendment, there's the authorization to scrap that vehicle as well.
Okay. With that adjustment, I'd motion we'd proceed with the auction.
I'll second that.
Tim, did you make the motion then?
I did.
Okay, and who seconded? Fannin?
Mr.
Yes.
Fannin.
Okay.
Okay, any discussion? Okay,
Aline, did you know where in town that's sale? I have someone that might be interested in.
I don't know as of yet. As soon as the flyer is available, I will email it to all the board members and post it here in the courthouse.
Okay, roll call vote, please, Christie.
Vieti. Yes. Bunning.
Yes.
Slagle.
Yes.
Ingalls.
Yes.
Steichen.
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Killian.
Yes.
Kestner.
Yes.
Ritter.
Yes.
Gerwin.
Yes.
Lovell.
Yes.
Allen. Weller. Ambrose.
Yes.
Carly. Yes. Holt.
Yes.
Mays.
Yes.
Heath.
Yes.
Weber. Young.
Yes.
Yoder.
Yes.
Bannon.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And the only other thing is that should say and commend Alina and Ginger and Diane from the finance office trying an altered approach to budgeting this year, which will be coming your way really quick. It's a fresher approach and should allow us to focus on, sharpen our focus, we'll say that. So, coming soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to Public Property Committee. Mr. Ingles, Chairman.
As far as maintenance, this past month, nothing out of the ordinary, significant, or that sort of thing. The one thing that is on the agenda is a memorandum of understanding. If you remember, back in March of 2017, a little over a year ago, the county board and the sheriff's department entered into a memorandum of understanding that split the maintenance department into two units. One unit had responsibility for maintenance at the Public Safety Complex, the Law and Justice Center. The other unit had responsibility for the remainder of the county buildings. Recent discussions with the sheriff. Sheriff Childress is here, and I appreciate his cooperation. We've come to the conclusion that best interests of the county, if we would try to put that back into one unit with responsibility for all the buildings under the direction of a manager. The memorandum of understanding that's in your packet basically does that. There were some questions about why we're suspending the previous memorandum rather than terminating it. The answer is pretty simple. Either way, if either side disagrees with going forward, we can go back. This just makes it easier to go back rather than having to renegotiate language and all that. So that's what this new memorandum of understanding says. It was discussed at committee and approved. And with that, I again appreciate the sheriff's cooperation in working through this and the language. And I would make a motion that this new memorandum of understanding be approved.
Mr. Killian with a second. Discussion? Roll call vote, please, Christie.
Fietti.
Yes.
Bunny.
Yes.
Slagle.
Yes.
Ingalls.
Yes.
Steichen.
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Killian.
Yes.
Kestner.
Yes.
Ritter.
Yes.
Gerwin.
Yes.
Lovell.
Yes.
Allen. Weller. Ambrose.
Yes.
Carly. Holt.
Yes.
Mays.
Present.
Heath.
Yes.
Weber. Young.
Yes.
Yoder.
Yes.
Bannon.
Yes.
Again, my thanks to the sheriff, his personnel, and Ginger, our HR manager, will post the job as per our procedures. With that, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. And in Kathy Arbogast's absence, who's the vice chair? Mr. Vietti, do you have a...
It's my great pleasure. Thank you, sir. We have one resolution, amending personnel policies. That's an action item, and I would move that on. Make the motion.
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second. Vietti and Heath, any discussion?
What changes were those, Jack? What changes were those, Jack?
They're going through there. He's studying them over, and he'll be back with them.
A lot of changes.
What was that?
Personnel, he's approved. It's in the manual, on the personnel manual.
You want to talk any about that, Ginger?
Ginger would be the one that actually brought it forward to us, right, Ginger? Thank you, Ginger. You rescued me. I knew you were out there. You were just waiting, weren't you? Thank you, dear. That's why Kathy didn't come.
actually started to come up last month, and it wasn't needed, so I was just waiting for the invitation this month. The personnel changes that we are proposing, a lot of those have to do with changes in regulation, changes in the Illinois law, things that deal with pregnancy and lactations and the human rights issues, the military language, the sexual orientation and sexual gender orientation. All of these things are changes that have come down from legislation over the last 4 or 5 years. The manual has not gone through this major review as we've done this time for the last 4 or 5 years. So it's one of the reasons why we felt like it needed to be. And we have a wonderful consultant through one of our agencies that helps us do that. There are extensive changes, but that really is what it is in a nutshell.
Any questions for Ginger? Mr. Vietti, you want to make that a motion
I
then?
want to thank Ginger. Thank you very much, and I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Heath, I
Heath
didn't
did.
leave somebody else, but I heard Heath or saw him. Okay. We can voice vote that, I think, can't we?
Good job.
Yeah. Okay, we can voice vote that. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you. Jack, you did a heck of a good job explaining that to us, buddy. Okay, IT Committee, Mrs. Allen, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We met with John, who reviewed his department report with us. He said the majority of the month he spent preparing for the phone system upgrade. He's been working on the wiring and switches. He will switch over the network first and then the phones within the next couple of weeks. He indicated that Spillman is now up to date. There's been a few issues, but nothing major. And that ends my report.
Thank you. Sheriff Jail and License, Mr. Kestner.
Committee met May 8th. We approved raffle licenses for Pontiac Sportsman's Club, the Red Fez Shrine Club, the Emmington Community Association, and Heartland Abate. The jail superintendent reported a gross income from last month from all sources of $170,665. The total inmates in the Livingston County Jail are 128, which includes Cook County, Federal North District, the Federal Central District, and Livingston County inmates. And that is my report.
Hey, thank you. Moving on to elections, rules, and legislation. Mr. Fannin, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The bulk of our work was done in the consent agenda with the appointments. We've been discussing the changes in committee structure in the future. We actually brought forth to the committee to talk about changing the committees from 10 committees down to 5 committees, trying to make it more streamlined, hopefully cost the county less money, and get more work done with less. The idea is if we went down to 18 board members, that 5 committees would be easier to work with. And that's the end of my report, Mr. Chairman.
Hey, thank you. Veterans Assistance Committee is Mr. Station. Mr. Station, if you have a rec report.
There is no rec report, but before I pass on the Veterans Assistance Committee report, I would like to welcome Mrs. Ambrose to the committee. And due to last month's change to the standing rules, I will defer the report for the Veterans Assistance Committee back to you, Mr. Chairman. Because I was not at the committee, you were.
Wasn't who's your vice chairman?
Mr. Yoder.
Mr. Yoder?
Yeah.
Pardon?
I'll make it.
Okay, Mr. Kestner.
We had 3 people attend the meeting. We approved the bills as presented by our Mr. Tom Bailey. the superintendent of that Veterans Assistance Group, and nothing else to report on. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ron. Okay, and I have no report tonight. Under administrative, back to reception committee by Mr. Steichen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, but the Recreation Committee has not met for the past 6 months, and I don't think they plan to meet in the
But we
future.
could go ahead and drop that from the agenda.
We could, yes.
And you can let us know if,
Yes, sir.
if you do.
I will. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Housing Authority report by Mr. Slagle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We met today. Everything's going smoothly, nothing exceptional to report. Meeting again July 19th. Thank you.
Okay, good. Is there any public comment? Would anybody out there like to address us or the board? Okay, I do want to thank, you can stay or stick around, we're going to have an executive session, but I do want to thank everyone for coming and for staying as long as you did to the bitter end. I appreciate that. So thank you, and our next meeting is June 14th. So thank you for coming. We'll take a couple-minute break. Okay, motion to go executive session by Mr. Bunning. Second by Mr. Ingles. All those in favor, aye? Aye. Roll call.
Okay, Vietti.
Yes.
Bunning.
Yes.
Slagle.
Yes.
Ingalls. Yes. Steichen. Schaefer.
Yes.
Killian.
Yes.
Kestner. Ritter. Ritter.
Gerwin. Yes.
Lovell.
Yes.
Allen. Weller. Ambrose.
Yes.
Carly. Yes. Holt.
Yes.
Runyon. Mays. Heath.
Yes.
Weber. Young.
Yes.